The borders of space and time have opened once again, and transmitting from the mountains of West Virginia, it's time once again for Let's Find Out with Diego. The universe is waiting for you.
All systems go.
On this episode of Let's Find Out, imagine a world woven from ancient secrets and mystical power. A world that demands a prophecy be awakened. Today, we delve into the mind behind such tales, an award-winning author whose journey into storytelling began within the pages of childhood books, whispers from avid-reader parents and the Scholastic book program. She emerged with Immortal Wounds in 2022, followed by the gripping A Prophecy Awakened in 2024. Her narratives blur the lines between fantasy, thriller, and even romance. All this plus more. Please welcome a new friend to our show and first-time guest, award-winning author Angie Barton. Angie, my friend, welcome to Let's Find Out.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here. As I was reading the notes that you sent me a little while ago, something struck me. We're going to go off to the races right now. We're going to start with this because you mentioned the Scholastic book fairs or the programs, and I remember those very vividly growing up, mostly in elementary school. Mm-hmm. And I think, at least in my area, it kind of started dying down a little bit. I don't know if they're still around now. Is that still a thing?
So there is still Scholastic book fairs, but I believe it's a little bit different. When I was in elementary school, the teachers passed out a little flyer that we took home. Is that what you experienced as well?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we got to pick out our books, and our parents sent a check back, and within a couple of weeks we got books. I don't think it's set up quite like that anymore. I think instead they set up one big book fair in the library, and then kids get to go maybe classroom by classroom and look through books. Parents send money with them, or they can buy before or after school. So it is still available, just in a little bit of a different format.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's very important in my life because that's when I discovered a lot of these books that got me interested. And funny enough, I think it was like UFOs and Bigfoot and other kind of. I was a big sci-fi geek when I was growing up, but one thing in particular brings to mind, and it brought a positive memory. So I'm glad that I read your bio. Back then, we still had records, and there was different kinds of records. There's small ones with stories. You flip through, you hear the chime, you change the pages, you move onward. But this one was like a full-length LP of Peter and the Wolf. I don't know if you remember that story or not.
Vaguely.
But it was very old. Even by that time, the story was already about 100 years old, probably long before that. But they put it in record form with a narrator, and each character or each part of the story had a different sound of an instrument. So it could be a trumpet, it could be this. So why am I even talking about this? Because kids learn things too. It opens their minds for different possibilities. So they're not just stuck with one thing. It just opens their mind for just different subjects to be interested in, or even make a career out of it later on in life.
Right. Absolutely. It was, my parents let me, I ordered a box of books every month because my mom said it was so inexpensive back then, but for less than $20, I came home with a box of books. And I'm sure I was a teacher favorite because teachers earned books for their classrooms depending on how many books their students ordered. So, I was reading, which is what we want all children to do. Like you say, it opens your mind up to the imagination and just different avenues. And as you're learning and growing, you don't really know what you like. And so being able to have all these choices to read and to do and, really helps to develop you and your imagination and where you like to go. So it was a wonderful thing. I'm a huge reader and a big advocacy for reading.
Yeah, it's I think there's a point where I think people got away from reading for a little while, but I think as I'm doing this podcast a lot more, I see a lot more authors, and I'm going to these events, and there are a lot of new readers out there just lining up with the authors, getting these books, not downloading the books, or actually physical books.
Right. I'm a physical book reader. I have a Kindle. I've tried it, and I can't focus on it like I can a book. So, of course, I have a big, TBR pile. I still buy more books or check more out at the library. I try to read physical books. I do a lot of audio too, Audible, just because I commute back and forth to work and it makes it easier. I can always, have stories. And I actually really like Audible because it's like someone reading a story to you. And I've learned that I think I've picked up on things that I might have missed had I read, because, sometimes you skim when you read. But when someone's reading to you, you are forced to hear every word on the page. And I really enjoy that.
I've been known to listen to some on my way to work. It's a long commute. So sometimes, a couple chapters, come back home, do the next few chapters. But in the spirit of the Scholastic Book Fair and that time in our life, can you pinpoint a specific book or a moment that truly ignited your imagination and then set you a path to becoming a writer down the road?
So not a book, but a genre. So being a young girl and then a teenage girl, I was all about romance and love. And so I did think my goal was to be the next Danielle Steele, romance writer, throw books out left and right. That is exactly what I wanted to be. Now, on the flip side, I also read Stephen King a lot because my parents read. There was no book that was banned in our house. We could read whatever we wanted. So I did read a lot of Stephen King and Dan Brown and Michael Crichton and all of that kind of stuff. But romance is really kind of where I think I really discovered I love the flow of it, and you really have to build characters in order to build a relationship in your reading for romance. And I think that's what really drove me to realize, okay, I'm going to write a book. So, but I will say on the other, like the Stephen King, that really opens up your imagination, because you could write anything. I mean, he writes about anything, so.
Well, you go from romance and now we're talking something a little bit different, but sometimes these paths do connect. When romance and vampires, sometimes you'll see the movies very well done where, there's something about these vampires that attracts. I don't know what is some sort of power that they have. In your opinion, what is it that vampires do? Because now we're delving into more supernatural paranormal.
Right. There's just something so romantic about it, so mysterious, and it's probably all wrong. But I don't, it's kind of like liking the bad boy, but it's just very mysterious, very sexy, if I'm going to be honest with you about it. I don't know. It's different. It's secretive. Maybe it's not all laid out there in the open.
Right. And I think each author sometimes they'll do something very differently because not everybody can write the same kind of supernatural vampire or fantasy novel the same way. I think we all delve into what we like and put it in there somewhere in the ingredients of the whole book. And you have Immortal Wounds and a Prophecy Awakened. Of course, both delve into the fantasy genre. Now, when you're blending fantasy with elements of thriller and romance, what's your process for ensuring each genre gets its moment to shine without overpowering the other?
So I think in my books, I write like the real world with our supernatural characters that blend in with the real world. And I think that, at least for me, I'm able to give each character a way to shine and to be, at the front light, during their time in the story. I don't know that I have a specific method. I think that I know that my main character, she has been female through this series, and my biggest challenge for myself was to make sure that character grew from the very beginning, kind of a young, innocent, not really sure, just like we all are when we're, getting ready to enter adulthood. But I wanted to make sure that through life's lessons, and unfortunately hers are all through supernatural lessons, that she learns and grows and becomes empowered. So that is kind of how I make her stand out. And then I have a lot of fun with the vampires. I have to say they are my most favorite characters to write. I have a couple that, although they both do vampire things, they very different personalities. Kind of like Interview with a Vampire from Anne Rice. She has Lestat, who really just does not care, does his own thing. The crazier he gets, he doesn't care. But then you have Louis, who's kind of pathetic and sad, and he didn't ask for that. And so my characters are very similar in that way. And I think that also allows them to shine, because they're not all the same.
And that's, I think, very important too, because things can get a little bit boring when things start looking the same. And so let's talk about some of the characters in your novels. So you mentioned the female character in there. So let's talk about some names, who they are, a little bit about their background.
Yeah. So Isabel, she's our main character in Immortal Wounds, which is book 1. And she is half witch, half vampire. Her dad was, her father was vampire, mother's witch. She did not get any witch characteristics, but she got a little bit of, just a very little bit, but mostly she got vampire in the means of her strength and her stamina and things like that. The one magical power she does have is the ability to travel through time. So that's a heck of a power, to have. But what she uncovers is the magical bloodline she was born from. And that is where the prophecy is introduced. She uncovers that as well when she travels back in time. She visits a character named Meg, who is also, she is a witchy type character, but she's young in the story, so you don't really see a whole lot. A lot of defiance, perhaps, in her, but not really a lot of power. She doesn't really know what she's doing. I would probably say one of the biggest characters that will go through all 3 books. I am writing book 3, is a character named Katerin. And I don't want to give away she has abilities. And so her character just blossomed from book 1, definitely, to book 2. And then she's kind of settled down in book 3. But I don't want to say what her abilities are in case no one has read yet. It would be it'd give it away. But then in A Prophecy Awakened, our story continues through Isabel's daughter, Charlotte, as she's becomes of age. I have my characters pretty much about 17, 18. She learns of the bloodline, but not only that, but also the prophecy, her place in the prophecy as it begins to unfold. And she's left on her own and has to work it out and find it out. She's pretty defiant. She doesn't believe that this old journal, written from an ancestor, is really true, and that all these things are going to happen. So she kind of, she learns a little bit of the hard way.
A little bit of self-discovery and knowing what's going on.
Absolutely. A lot of self-discovery. Yes. And a lot of bit of, it's very much about family, the bonds of family. It's a lot of triumph, against all odds kind of thing. And to prove yourself. And I think that's what really helps my main characters become empowered, is because they have to power through it. I mean, it's just what is expected of them. So.
And with these characters now, every time there's a great story, there has to be also a great bad guy somewhere lurking, trying to ruin somebody's day.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, that would be my vampires. So, yes. So they, in the very beginning, so I guess my 2 main ones are Christian and Dario, and they too have 2 different, they reflect 2 different types of vampires. Dario is, ruthless, and he doesn't care, very selfish, whereas Christian still, he misses his humanity. And so there's still a lot of that humanity that he holds on to. He lost a lot when he became changed as a vampire, and it was done out of revenge. And so, but he's not really angry about it. He's more saddened about it. But those 2, and they carry through into book 2. However, also into A Prophecy Awakened, we have this gang of ruthless vampires from Mexico, and they come up and stir the pot a little bit. And then they add to this story of where did all of this come from. And so they give a backstory of why the prophecy was actually put in place to begin with. So they stir up a little trouble and mess up with the witches a little bit, but their story is really what tells why that prophecy was set in place.
And then we have to delve a little bit more into the book to find out about that backstory, because I'm already on the hook. And but with that, because we're talking about vampire lore and supernatural, and delve into paranormal. And I know it's a weird way to segue into something a little bit different, but in the pre-interview, we had a little bit of a conversation about some of your paranormal experiences you've had from your youth back in, and any of those experiences or any of that, did they bleed a little bit into the books, or did you touch on those experiences at all?
Okay, so I believe they have a lot to do with my openness, my imagination, my writing, and my believing that to a level, I do believe that a form of supernatural does exist. My experiences did not bleed into the book, but I've had quite a few experiences. I think I'm very open-minded. I experience a lot of deja vu. And I kind of get a lot of this from my mom. We also are very, very intuitive. I would say my very first, at least that I can remember, paranormal type experience was I was about 3 years old, and I thought we were at a hospital, but my mom said we were at a rehab, and my great grandmother had been very ill, and they were trying to rehab her, but she was passing. And I remember that there was a tall, like a long, skinny window in the room, and that's why I think I thought it was a hospital. And I still can visualize this, but I remember looking out that window and seeing angels. And I told my mom, the angels are here to take Nanny. They're here. The angels are right outside. And I still, to this day, can see exactly what I saw out that window. And she passed on shortly after.
My, now,
Yeah.
can you recall how they looked like? I know it's a little while ago, but
Yeah, like they looked like, I think they look like the angels that you see when you see posters or pictures of, Jesus or angels up in heaven, with the big wings, and they're kind of long and very delicate. They weren't scary or any, I don't know. I don't remember any kind of a face or a facial feature. I think what I can remember is the big wings and just the whiteness of them. And I knew, even as a small child, that they were angels.
and that kind of makes sense because mostly they've been described as being light. So how do you describe light?
How do I
Because
describe? I'm
it's
sorry.
hard to. No, that's
Oh,
on me because mostly angels. If you look at the posters and stuff, but sometimes people who have these angelic visitations or something,
hmm
it's been my experience for those who have explained it to me. Sometimes they can't decipher actual features because although they can see wings or something that looks like wings,
hmm
it's just pure light. I don't know. I don't know if I explained it correctly.
I think that would be right. I think that would be a great way because like I said, I don't recall any faces, but I can picture wings. I can
Mm.
picture a long white type dress or a light or something, not something blinding, but something safe, something that that's okay. They're here to take her and it's okay, you know?
And was that the only experience you've had with these types of visits?
No, I've had a couple of others. I I was trying to think what year. It was probably about 2006, 2007. I was working at a facility, and apparently, before I had come on board there, they had a student who had a young student who had passed away at home due to an accident. But this child loved being on the playground when they were um, at the school. And anyways, unfortunate accident. So the parents came back to the school, and because their son loved playing on the playground, they planted a tree in on the play area. And there was also a special little plaque, kind of like in memory from that. Well, when I started working there, it was claimed that there was a ghost there. There was a ghost in the school. He would scare the ladies and people and everything. And I used to work up there a lot by myself or over weekends or stay late, things like that. And I would constantly hear down the side of the hall that went out to the playground a door slam or a laughter or something. And it was very terrifying. I will admit to you, because, you know, when you're there in a big facility by yourself, you do think, oh my God, did somebody just come in? You know, but I knew no one had come in because everything was locked. It was just not possible. So I ended up telling one of my bosses, and I said, okay, it's scaring a few of the ladies. Like, they would come in and shut their door and barricade it until other people came to work, because they're like, it sounds like somebody keeps coming in and out. So my boss came in and we walked down that hallway, and she said to him to get outside, that outside is where he loved being at school. That is where his plaque and his tree was, and to stop scaring us. And do you know, after that, we never heard anything again. It is the craziest thing. Craziest. Yeah.
That is. I mean, no, the best part about the whole thing is not just something that you saw or heard. Yeah, multiple witnesses.
Oh, multiple. Oh yeah, my cook, because she was always the first one there. She would tell me she would go in and barricade her door just because she goes, I don't know what it is, even though we all knew there was no one else there. But yeah, multiple people. And there was another location that had very similar experience. I did not experience that, but I heard it through rumors. So I don't know what was going on with that, and I've been places where I will even admit I lived in a house that was a bit haunted, only for a very short period of time, as just a rental for a short period of time before we moved into a house that we were buying. And the downstairs was fine. This was probably in about, I don't know what year it was, 2009 maybe. The downstairs was fine. It's a very, very large house, and the downstairs felt just normal, homey. But as soon as you started walking upstairs, there was a coldness. And if it makes any sense, you felt like someone was watching you as soon as you walked upstairs. And I had two sons, and they lived with me at the time. And we never really talked about it till after we moved out, but they were very afraid of that house. And they would tell me when they would leave in the car to go to work or to their friends or to school, they never looked back at the house because they thought someone was watching them out the windows. Yeah. Yeah. So one night I'm in bed, and I had a lab at the time, and I had very large master bedroom and bathroom, and the dog just started barking. It had a bay window in it, and she just started barking. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, Lily, please stop barking. You know, I thought she heard something outside or whatever, but she'd bark. All of a sudden, and I swear this sounds like a movie, but it really is real, she cried like that, and ran under the bed. Well, I didn't want to live there anymore at all. I slept with the lights on. I think I probably cried. It was very scary because I felt like she was trying to tell me that there was something wrong, and whatever it was scared her. So thank goodness the house I'm in now is good. Nothing scary.
Well, that was going to be my follow-up question. You know, did this thing follow you to your new home?
I'm sorry?
Did it follow you to your new home? Or
Yeah. So my son found out later on, after we moved out, he found out from another student at the high school that had been a rental home for a long time, and they had problems with drug dealers. So all I can assume maybe is something bad things did happen there. And it just was still kind of, left undone. That's all I can think. But yeah, thankfully we moved out, and I've never looked back.
No, don't look back. Lot's wife learned that very same lesson. Don't look back ever. Because
no, don't look back ever. Yeah. Nope. I never go down that street. I never drive by that house. I never even, nope. It is in the past, and already did all of that.
No, so with these stories and these experiences that you've had, I'm not trying to be the idea guy.
Okay.
But have you ever thought about maybe writing something about that? Or
do you know, I have not. And I don't even know why. I never have. I never have thought about that. I guess I don't know why. Maybe I thought maybe no one would be interested, or I wouldn't have a big enough story behind it. But I could certainly write a story about the house we lived in. That for sure. That would be enough for a book, because there was other things. Many after we moved out, my brother said something was wrong with that house. My kids, there was just a bad feeling.
Yeah, I mean, especially with what was going on in that house, because you don't know the level of issues these drug dealers were going. Who knows what happened in that house,
Right.
right? Somebody could have OD'd. There could have been a murder. There could have been. You never know.
You never know. That's exactly right.
And so, in present time, now that you're in your lovely home and it's spirits free as far as we know, I mean, outside of the home where you're at now, have you seen anything else? Any other experiences?
Let's see. Probably not since I moved out of that house. But I have been in other homes where I have been in another family member's home where I walked in and, it's cute and fun and whatever. And I either walk upstairs or walk downstairs and I'm like, somebody else is here, right? I'm just like, I feel it. I'm very sensitive to that. And they'll go, yeah, I know. And then they'll say something, this one family member said, and I don't know if she wants me to put her on the podcast. So that's why I'm just going to leave it as a family member. But she said, yeah, it's okay. It's just a little boy. He doesn't bother anybody, But then I'd go down in the basement and I'm like, okay, yeah, so this doesn't feel right. And basements are kind of creepy in themselves. And so if you have a big imagination, maybe sometimes you make it creepier than what it really is. But there's been times I've walked into places and thought, okay, yeah, it's real cold in here. This does not feel good. Or my gut is telling me, no, we're not going to stay here.
But I think that you were talking earlier, it's an ability that you have. You're able to be a living, witnessing. I'm gonna use a technical term, but you have a gift of some sort where you're able to determine that places that you go, there's activity in that location. Does this happen often? Can you? I know I understand it's involuntary sometimes, but can you go somewhere and really concentrate and then get a full picture of what's happening?
I don't think I've ever done it that way. I don't think I've ever gone anywhere in hopes to feel something or sense something. I think it's just happened naturally. I did forget I did stay at a bed and breakfast in Jefferson, Texas, and there was something very terrifying there. It woke me up during the night. I made us sleep with the lamp on afterwards. But I don't think I've ever, like I said, gone anywhere looking for. I think I just walk in and I'm just sensitive to it. So I feel it. I'm aware of it, but I couldn't tell you. I could tell you if it feels good or bad. But other than that, no, honestly, I'm kind of a scaredy cat.
No.
So yeah, sometimes I talk a tough game on Facebook and I'm just like, oh yes, I'll go to that haunted house if my friend will go with me. But when it comes right down to it, I really don't know if I would go or not.
No, I'm pretty brave on the internet myself. You've seen these keyboard warrior fingers I got here. It's like regular John Rambo's. I go in there and then in person, I'm kind of like really chill. So I don't mess with anybody.
You don't mess with any of that. Yeah. I went to a cemetery in Weatherford, Texas, and there was some about a witch's tomb in there. And so I went to check that out and all of that, but that was all during the daylight. Now, if you ask me to go back there at night, I'm probably going to say, no, thank you. I saw it during the day. I took pictures. All was good. But there's always a little part of me that says, yes, let's do it. I just don't think I would actually do it.
Maybe not yet. Not in this point of your life, at least, because you still have a lot of books to write and you have to concentrate on the task at hand.
Right.
And talking about that now beyond Immortal Wounds series. So what aspects of the fantasy genre or perhaps entirely different genres are you interested in exploring something different in the future, or are you going to stick with that theme?
So I like the fantasy. Before I was writing fantasy, I had joined a writer's group. Okay, I'm going to totally back up. I always thought I would be a romance writer. That's just really what I thought I would be. I tried writing romance. I cannot write romance to save my life. I have no plot. And so, honestly, plot really should not be that hard because it's really always kind of the same in romance. But I just couldn't, I think I wasn't happy writing there. So I started writing thriller. I do like thriller, but I was writing thriller and I was about 25,000 words into a manuscript. And my writers group met. We would meet once a week. And about 6 of the writers came back with a brand new story, and all of them had something to do with a vampire. They were all completely different. And so I dumped the thriller, and I'm like, well, I like vampires too, so I'm going to write about that. And I feel like my writing opened up a little bit more with the fantasy and the vampire. But I would like to go back and visit the thriller. I would like to actually finish that manuscript I started. I think with anything, the more you do it, the better you get. And I think I'm a much better writer now, than I was. That would have been about 2016, 2017. I know I still have a lot to learn, but I would like to revisit that. I think I got to a point where it was, I needed more information about cops and investigating and detectives, and that's not a knowledge that I have. And so I think that's part of what made me get stuck. But right now, I really like the fantasy genre. I have an idea in mind for my next book, and I really would like for it to be a standalone, but, we'll see what the characters say about that. But I'm very interested in the witch burnings in Connecticut, which most people don't know about because everything is always focused on Salem. Mm-hmm. And so I want to do a little bit more research on that. And I have a little bit of an idea, but I've tried to refrain from starting the research on that so that I can finish book 3 of Immortal Wounds, because otherwise I'm afraid I'll get distracted and start writing something new without finishing. So I'm really trying to be disciplined. But for right now, that's what I like. I'd also like to write a ghost story. I went to London in, I think it was December of 2022, and went to the London Tower. Oh my gosh. And I just felt the ghosts there, I didn't feel anything scary and cold or dark or anything, but just reading and seeing all the history there, I was like, I would love to write a ghost story kind of set way back in time, so that's also in the back of my mind.
You mentioned the tower. Plenty of spirits have come and gone through there. I'm pretty sure about that.
Oh, I'm most definitely sure. I took so many pictures. I could have stayed there I don't know, 12 hours. We only had a few hours, and so I made the best of it. But those walls could tell a story.
Oh, be endless. It'll be endless stories. And I'm going to go back to vampires real quick because of all the vampire movies that have been made in whatever decade, which one do you like the best?
Oh my goodness. So I guess if I had to choose one, I'm a huge fan of Anne Rice, and I loved Interview with a Vampire. I also very much love old school Dracula, but I'm also, don't laugh at me, I'm a twihard, and I love Twilight. So I think it kind of depends on what your mood is. But I would probably say Interview with a Vampire, and I think it's because her vampires are all very different. Or not all very different, but the most important ones, the main ones, have different types of personality. So I think that might be my favorite.
And you nailed it, because a lot of vampire movies are definitely very different. And I'll give you mine. Okay. And one is going to be a given, because who doesn't like this movie? And if you don't, we'll still be friends. It's okay.
Okay.
Lost Boys.
Oh, gosh, yes. Yeah. I love Lost Boys.
Yeah, everything top to bottom, every note, they hit every note, everything's perfect about that movie. And 2, my second favorite one, totally different kind of vampire movie, and it blends more into the horror aspect, which is 30 Days of Night.
30 Days. I don't think I've ever watched that.
That is a monster movie, no pun intended. And if you want to be put in a situation where you're watching a movie and you want to get into a situation in your mind where you would be totally isolated and fearful of these vampires coming to get you, that's the movie to watch. Part 2, it's okay. 30 Days of Night, I know it's based on a graphic novel, but it's a 10 out of 10 for me. I don't give ratings very well, but 10 out of 10.
All right. I wrote it down, so I'm going to watch it.
All right, now, but don't get mad if you don't like it. Say you just wasted 2 hours of my life with this nonsense.
Yeah, but no, I could love it. It could become the new favorite. So yeah, no, we'll still be friends, like you said.
Oh, perfect. Just let me know if you like it or not. But now, for our friends, the listeners of Let's Find Out, that want to learn more about you, your books, and where you're going to be this year. A couple questions: where can they find out? And 2, are you going to be doing any book signings this year?
Yes, so I do have a website, and they're able to go on to my website, and I have all my events listed on there, as well as just any updates, any news, any book awards, or anything like that, press releases, anything, information, my next book coming out. So my website is www.authorangiebarton.com. So you can always find everything there. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. I come and go on posting on my socials, just because I do work full time, and so sometimes it's hard to try to do all of it. I have a book signing down in Conroe, Texas. My books are in a new store called Get Fictional. Awesome store if you're ever down in Conroe, outside of Houston. So I'm doing that, but I do a lot of book events. Fall is a really big, busy time for me. It's really my most successful time. I'd like to be successful every month of the year, and that obviously is the goal. I branched out and I did a few events this spring, and then again this summer. But fall, starting about September through December, is, I think, really when my time shines. So my weekends are all spoken for in October already. I have 3 events in August. Some of them are book events. Some of them are big city festivals. I used to do every event I could find. And I think that was kind of an important thing to do, because I learned what cities and what type of events maybe people were interested in my books, or who was readers, who weren't. And so I've kind of cut that out now, and I have some main areas that I really try to be in, but I try to stay very busy. I think last fall, if I remember correctly, I did 12 events. That's quite a bit. When you work Monday through Friday as well, that's a lot. I think I'll exceed that this year, and I'm super excited. I'm pumped up, and I have all the energy now. Come December, I'll probably be tired, but I'm going to try to do that, and also finish my book 3 so I can get it to my editor, as I've been promising her all year.
Excellent. And I'm sure that this other book will be just as awesome as the other 2. And I'd like to thank you for being on the show. I know we've been talking back and forth for the last couple of months, and thanks to our good friend Adam for connecting us. And I look forward to having you back on again once the new book comes out, and we'll talk about that. And also, sometimes our memory banks get a little jogged up, and we'll talk more about some of your other paranormal experiences as well.
Sure, that sounds great. I absolutely love all of it.
Thank you, my friend.
Copyright Diego the Podcaster. All content for Let's Find Out is the property of Diego the Podcaster and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, Diego the Podcaster, or Let's Find Out. The information shared on Let's Find Out with Diego is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.